The radar warning receiver in the cockpit of the F-15E Strike Eagle shrieked a high-pitched, insistent tone, a digital scream cutting through the roar of the engines as the aircraft, callsign Vandal 1, clawed its way over the razorback ridgeline of the Zagros Mountains. Captain Jake Spectre Miller, pilot, didn't hesitate. His left hand slammed the throttles forward, past the detent, into full afterburner. The twin F-100 PW229 engines, beasts of raw power, responded instantly, gulping raw fuel and dumping it into the exhaust. A searing inferno erupted behind them, generating a colossal 58,000 pounds of thrust, pushing Spectre and his weapons systems officer, Major Rage Reynolds, deeper into their seats, the G-forces pressing against them with relentless force. Missile launch, Sayad 2, port side, high aspect. Rage's voice, usually calm and measured, was now a sharp, urgent bark echoing in Spectre's ear as the threat display blossomed red. Spectre's eyes, already scanning the hostile horizon, locked onto the approaching plume of smoke, a rapidly expanding spear of death arcing towards them. He ripped the stick, yanking the F-15E into a violent defensive maneuver, dumping chaff and flares in a desperate attempt to spoof the incoming threat. But this wasn't an old dumb missile. The shore-based variant of the Sayad 2, an Iranian beast forged for this very moment, was smarter, faster. It shrugged off the countermeasures. The detonation was less a bang and more a brutal concussive thump that rattled every bone in Spectre's body. The world outside the canopy erupted in a blinding flash of orange and white, followed by a sickening lurch. The 440-pound warhead hadn't scored a direct hit, but it didn't need to. It detonated a mere 12 feet from the port engine nozzle, a proximity burst designed to shred. Inside the cockpit, chaos. The master caution lights flashed a frantic, angry red, painting the instrument panel in an apocalyptic glow. Alarms screamed, a cacophony of impending doom. The flight control system, the digital brain that kept the Strike Eagle in the sky, buckled under the immense stress, its warnings flashing. Flight control system failed. Flight control system failed. Flight control system failed. The stick went limp in Spectre's hand, unresponsive, dead. The F-15E, once a balletic dancer of the skies, was now a crippled beast, plummeting. Eject, eject, eject. Rage's voice was a desperate command, cutting through the alarms. Spectre's hand, already finding the yellow and black handle, squeezed it tight. The automatic command sequencing ACS initiated, a split-second chain reaction designed for survival. With a deafening roar and a violent, gut-wrenching acceleration, the twin rocket motors of their ACS-2 ejection seats fired, punching Spectre and Rage clear of the dying jet. The force was immense, slamming them upwards, out of the cockpit, into the frigid, thin air at an astonishing 600 miles per hour. The sudden silence, broken only by the rush of wind, was deafening after the cockpit's pandemonium. Below them, the $84 million F-15E Strike Eagle, a marvel of American engineering and a symbol of power, tumbled helplessly into a flat spin, its broken wings catching the air in a death spiral. It impacted the unforgiving rocky Khuzestan slope with a resounding thunderous crack that echoed across the desolate landscape, erupting into a magnificent, horrifying 300-yard fireball of JP-8 jet fuel and shredded wreckage, a funeral pyre against the harsh mountains. 90 miles away, two HH-60 Pave Hawk rescue helicopters, call signs Angel 6 and Angel 7, dropped like stones to 50 feet above the desert floor. Their rotors, a relentless blur, kicked up a continuous swirling dust cloud, a brown rooster tail marking their frantic push towards the faint but steady beacon signal from Spectre's survival radio. Overhead, two A-10 Warthog attack jets, Hog 1 and Hog 2, banked in a tight protective holding pattern, their distinctive silhouettes a grim promise of fire and fury. The air in the Pavey Hawks was thick with a nervous tension, the rescue crew's eyes glued to their displays, listening for any change in the WSO's signal. Major Dave Hammer Davies, pilot of Angel 6, slowed his Pavey Hawk to a delicate hover near Spectre's GPS coordinates. The sand and rock below blurred as the rotor wash scoured the ground. Suddenly, the silence of the desert was shattered. Iranian asymmetric forces, a brutal mix of Revolutionary Guard and local militias, erupted from their hidden positions. RPG-7 rockets, their distinctive fiery tails streaked from concealed limestone caves. 23mm anti-aircraft cannons, camouflaged meticulously, opened up with a furious chatter, their tracers lacing the air, a deadly web seeking to ensnare the vulnerable helos. Angel 6 took a direct hit. The lead HH-60 Pavey Hawk shuddered violently as an RPG warhead slammed into its tail boom. The impact was sickening, tearing through metal, crippling the aircraft's stability. Hammer fought the torque, his hands a blur on the cyclic and pedals, struggling against the sudden savage spin that threatened to send them plummeting. The aircraft lurched, spinning a full 180 degrees, momentarily disorienting everyone inside. Black smoke, thick and acrid, choked the engine intakes, threatening to starve the turbines. Alarms blared again, a new chorus of disaster. On the side of the helicopter, Sergeant Elena Valkyrie Ramirez, the door gunner, didn't flinch. Her GAU-18/50 caliber machine gun roared to life, a deep resonant growl. Tracers, incandescent rivers of lead, arced out into the hillside, seeking the muzzle flashes from the caves. Her counterpart on the other side, Corporal Miller, no relation to Spectre, matched her fire, their combined volume of lead a desperate plea for space. Hog 1, engaged. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Maverick Vance, pilot of Hog 1, rolled his A-10 into a steep 30-degree dive, a Predator descending. The massive GAU-8 Avenger 30mm cannons, mounted beneath the nose, spun up to a terrifying 3,900 rounds per minute fire rate, a sound like a tearing canvas followed by the ripping of reality itself. Depleted uranium shells, each the size of a milk bottle, streamed from the gun, a focused, annihilating stream. They impacted the Iranian positions, turning the cave entrances into clouds of pulverized rock and superheated metal. Each shell hit with the force of a sledgehammer, not just killing, but vaporizing the RPG teams instantly, leaving nothing but dust and echoes. The air filled with the smell of ozone and burnt rock. Behind him, Hog 2, flown by Captain Sarah Viper Jenkins, released 4 GBU-12 PAVE 2 laser-guided bombs. The 500-pound munitions, guided by Viper's precise laser designator, tracked the shimmering laser spots on the Iranian technicals, the makeshift pickups armed with heavy machine guns. The explosions were concussive, ripping through the desert. The technicals, once symbols of insurgent mobility, were tossed 50 feet into the air like children's toys, their twisted wreckage raining down on the sand. Amidst the sustained chaos, the rescue team, moving with practiced urgency, pulled the battered but conscious Captain Miller into the vibrating, smoke-filled cabin of the damaged HH-60 Pavehawk. His face was streaked with soot and blood, but his eyes were wide with a fierce determination. "Rage, where's Rage?" he rafts, struggling against the hands trying to secure him. But Major Reynolds' signal, once a beacon of hope, was now chillingly, utterly dead. A cold dread settled over the crew. The helicopters, their mission compromised, pulled maximum power, their pilots pushing the cyclic forward to max speed, retreating under a relentless curtain of 30mm cannon fire that still raked the desert around them. They were leaving a man behind. As the HH-60 Pavehawks flared for extraction, attempting to escape the immediate kill zone, Iranian insurgents, demonstrating a chilling coordination, unmasked Zu-23-2 anti-aircraft cannons. These twin-barreled nightmares, hidden under camouflage netting on reverse slopes, had been patiently waiting. The 23mm armor-piercing incendiary rounds, designed to rip through light armor, slammed into the belly of the lead HH-60 Pavehawk, Angel 6. Inside the cabin, a sickening metallic shriek was followed by the wet thud of impact. 2 American crew members caught in the inferno were peppered with white-hot shrapnel as the rounds punched violently through the airframe. Screams mixed with the roar of the engines. Iranian state media, with chilling efficiency, captured the moment of impact. Simultaneously, 3 9K338 Iglis shoulder-fired missiles, whispers of death, were launched from the high ridge lines, their smoke trails marking a renewed assault. The first missed, spiraling harmlessly into the sky, but the second, guided by an unseen hand, detonated near the engine intake of Angel 7, the second HH-60 Pavehawk. A spray of superheated metal tore into the turbine, causing it to spool down with an ominous groan. The A-10 Warhogs providing cover were now bracketed by heavy machine gunfire from multiple directions. 12.7mm rounds, the size of a man's thumb, impacted the A-10's reinforced wings and engine cowlings, their distinctive thunk-thunk-thunk audible even through the aircraft's hardened hull. The Iranians, despite their heavy losses, moved with a calculated aggression, using the rugged Zagros terrain to stay in the blind spots of the circling jets, forcing the American pilots to fly lower and slower, deeper into the teeth of the anti-aircraft fire. They were trading light infantry units for a chance to down a rescue helicopter, refusing to yield even as 30mm shells from the Warhogs continued to rain down on their positions, pulverizing their fighting holes. The ground vibrated with the continuous detonations, the air thick with smoke and the metallic tang of battle. Far out at sea, a different kind of war machine hummed with suppressed power. On the 4-acre flight deck of the USS Gerald R. Ford, the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, EMLS, began a high-frequency cycle, its invisible forces building. Unlike the old steam catapults, which belched superheated vapor, EMLS used a precise, immense pulse of electricity to accelerate a 66,000-pound FA-18E Super Hornet from a dead stop to a blistering 150 mph in under 300 feet. The launch cycle was relentless, a precise, violent ballet of power and technology. Every 45 seconds, with a concussive thud and a blinding flash of afterburners, a new jet was slung into the air, a steel projectile launched into the strategic chessboard above. This carrier, a floating city of war, was the Spearhead. We want to acknowledge the men and women currently serving on the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Boxer. We know many of you watching served on these ships or have children currently in the 494th Fighter Squadron, or similar units. The machine, no matter how advanced, is only as good as the American hands that maintain it, the sharp minds that operate it, and the brave hearts that fly and fight from its decks. If you're a veteran or an active duty family member, drop your ship's name or your squadron's unit number in the comments. We stand with you. Your unwavering courage forms the backbone of our nation's strength. As the USS Gerald R. Ford's formidable air wing moved north, establishing strategic air superiority, the USS Boxer, an amphibious assault ship, took its critical station in the narrow choke point Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians, desperate to counter the overwhelming American technological advantage, responded with their primary asymmetric tool, the swarm. From the hidden rocky coves of Qeshm Island, 40 fast attack craft, flimsy vessels built from fiberglass but armed with twin-barrel 20mm cannons and unguided rockets burst forth. They approached the USS Boxer at a blistering 50 milliparas, weaving in an erratic, unpredictable pattern, a chaotic dance designed specifically to confuse and overwhelm sophisticated targeting computers. On the flight deck, 2 AV-8B Harrier II jump jets, engines screaming a unique vertical roar, taxied into position and performed short-range takeoffs, defying gravity with their vectored thrust. They dropped to a mere 200 feet above the waves, their pilots honed for close air support, using the GAU-12 Equalizer 25mm cannons to strafe the lead boats. The cannon fire tore through the flimsy hulls, shattering fiberglass and sending plumes of water and debris into the air. Simultaneously, on the ship's deck, the Mark 38 25mm machine gun systems, guided by an independent high-speed computer-controlled track, swung into action. Their barrels, a blur of motion, precisely tracked the zigzagging boats, firing merciless 3-round bursts that punched clean through the engines of the Iranian vessels, leaving them dead in the water, sputtering in a blaze. When one particularly audacious boat managed to fire a 107mm rocket towards the USS Boxer's hull, the ship's RIM-116 rolling airframe missile system responded with lightning speed. The Ram, a compact, deadly interceptor, spun at a dizzying 10 cycles per second as it left its launcher, its infrared seeker locking onto the rocket's hot exhaust plume. With unerring accuracy, it obliterated the incoming threat 200 yards from the ship's side, a flash of light and a puff of smoke marking the prevention of disaster. Iran's refusal to back down, even in the face of such overwhelming power, manifested in a massive, uncoordinated surge of coastal assets. While the USS Boxer was fully engaged with the swarm boats, the Iranian military activated mobile cruise missile launchers, cunningly hidden inside the limestone sea caves that dotted the rugged coastline along the Strait of Hormuz. They fired a volley of 4 Nor anti-ship missiles. These missiles, designed to hug the water, dropped to a treacherous sea-skimming altitude of just 15 feet, moving at an incredible 670 miles per hour towards the USS Boxer, almost invisible against the chaotic radar clutter of the waves. Inside the USS Boxer's radar room, a hub of intense concentration, the atmosphere turned electric, a workspace of frantic energy. The ship's electronic warfare suites hummed into overdrive, attempting to jam, spoof, and ultimately break the missile's radar locks, throwing digital static into their guidance systems. One Iranian missile, displaying unnerving sophistication, performed a high-G terminal pop-up maneuver, attempting to bypass the ship's defenses from directly above. This forced the USS Boxer to fire its RIM-116 rolling airframe missile at point-blank range, a desperate last-ditch effort that narrowly averted impact. On the shore, Iranian artillery batteries, previously silent, began a sustained bombardment of the vital shipping lanes. They were firing 155mm high-explosive shells into the water, not necessarily to hit the ships, but attempting to blind the Navy's optoelectronic sensors with splashes and obscuring spray, creating a fog of war. High above the Iranian coastline, an EA-18G Growler aircraft, a master of electronic warfare, detected the distinctive chirp of an Iranian S-300 long-range radar, its powerful pulses sweeping the sky. The Growler pilot, sensing the threat, flipped the master arm switch. An AGM-88 EARGM, an advanced anti-radiation guided missile, detached from the Growler's wing. Its rocket motor fired with a guttural roar, accelerating the weapon to an astonishing 1,500 miles per hour, an invisible hunter seeking its prey. The Iranian radar operator, seeing the clear signature of an incoming anti-radiation missile, shut down their transmitter in a frantic attempt to hide, but it was too late. The AGM-88 EARGM, now flying blind without a radar signal to home on, seamlessly switched to its internal GPS and millimeter wave active seeker, its digital memory remembering the exact coordinates of the site. It slammed into the radar trailer with devastating precision, the 150-pound warhead vaporizing the electronics and the crew inside, leaving nothing but a crater and shattered fragments. With the long-range eyes of the enemy blinded, a flight of F-35C Lightning II fighters, spectral predators in the high altitude, moved in. Their stealth profiles rendered them almost undetectable. They opened their internal weapons bays, revealing their deadly payload, and released GBU-53B Stormbreakers. These advanced munitions, small but incredibly intelligent, glided on deployable wings using tri-mode seekers, GPS, millimeter wave radar, and semi-active laser to find mobile missile launchers cunningly hidden in the tree lines below. 3 launchers were hit simultaneously, a symphony of destruction. The secondary explosions from the Iranian missiles cooked off, their highly volatile fuel sending white-hot rocket motors spinning wildly and erratically into nearby Iranian troop concentrations, turning them into blazing infernos. Miles away, the immense Air Force B-1B Lancer bombers, flying at high speed, received critical data link coordinates from the Navy's E-2D Advanced Hawkeye command plane, the airborne general orchestrating the battle. The bombers opened their massive internal bays, each a cavernous maw, and unleashed a torrent of 24 AGM-158 JASM stealthy cruise missiles. These weapons of strategic destruction dropped to a mere 20 feet above the water, their quiet turbofan engines pushing them relentlessly at 600 miles per hour, nearly invisible to radar thanks to their stealthy design. The AGM-158 JASM missiles, precise and deadly, popped up dramatically in the final 3 seconds of flight, diving vertically into the reinforced concrete roofs of command bunkers and hardened missile silos. The kinetic impact of the 1,000-pound penetrator warhead was immense, shearing through 20 feet of earth and concrete before detonating deep within, obliterating the structures and everything inside. The ground trembled with each distant, muffled thud. Iran, in a final act of desperation to saturate the USS Gerald R. Ford's defenses, launched a wave of 60 Shahhed 136 suicide drones. These low-tech, persistent threats, powered by simple lawnmower engines, moved at a relatively slow 115 miles per hour, designed to overwhelm by sheer numbers. The USS Gerald R. Ford, however, didn't use expensive missiles for this threat. It employed the Phalanx CIWS, the close-in weapon system, known affectionately as R2-D2. The 20mm Vulcan cannon, guided by its own independent radar, and firing a stream of tungsten armor-piercing rounds at an astonishing 4,500 rounds per minute, unleashed a devastating wall of lead. The drones were shredded in mid-air, their fuel tanks exploding in small, precise flashes of fire, a relentless mechanical defense. Simultaneously, the USS Gerald R. Ford's RIM 160U ESM evolved Sea Sparrow missile system engaged the higher altitude threats. The missiles left the vertical launch cells with a roar of white smoke, performing high G turns as they arced skyward to intercept more sophisticated Iranian anti-ship cruise missiles fired from the shore. Each intercept was a massive kinetic release, the missiles colliding at a combined speed of over 4,000 miles per hour, leaving only rapidly dissipating contrails and metallic dust against the blue. The Iranian Air Force, in a desperate suicidal gamble to break the blockade, scrambled its remaining F-14 Tomcats and MiG-29s. These aging, proud warriors, remnants of a bygone era, roared into the sky. The Navy F-35C Lightning IIs and F-A-18E Super Hornets, forming a formidable air screen, detected them from 150 miles away using their advanced AN/APG-81 AESA active electronically scanned array. The Navy pilots, with almost effortless precision, released AIM-120D AMRAAM missiles, their long-range air-to-air killers. These missiles, traveling at an incredible 3,000 miles per hour, used active radar seekers to find their targets with unerring accuracy. The Iranian pilots were flying blind, their radar systems completely jammed and overwhelmed by the EA-18G Growlers, their screens a blizzard of static. 4 Iranian jets were destroyed in the first minute of the air engagement. The pilots never saw their attackers, never knew what hit them. The AIM-120D Amram missiles impacted the aircraft with such force that the airframes disintegrated into thousands of pieces of aluminum and composite, turning jets into confetti. One audacious Iranian MiG-29 pilot, in a desperate, defiant act, attempted to close for a gun kill, a final futile gesture of pride. But a Navy FA-18E Super Hornet pilot, leveraging the incredible agility of the AIM-9X Sidewinder and the revolutionary joint helmet-mounted cueing system, responded with surgical precision. The pilot simply looked at the Iranian jet, a fleeting glance, and fired. The AIM-9X Sidewinder, a marvel of modern air combat, performed an astounding 60G turn, its high-thrust vectoring motor pulling the missile into a violent 180-degree arc, defying physics to track its target. It slammed into the MiG-29's cockpit with an explosive impact, ending the engagement with chilling finality. The Iranian Navy, shattered but still defiant, attempted to move its larger frigates out of port, hoping to slip through the blockade under the chaos. The USS Boxer detected the movement, its sensors relentless. It launched 2 FA-18E Super Hornets, each armed with AGM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missiles, deadly sea-skimming precision weapons. The AGM-84 Harpoon dropped to its sea-skimming altitude of 15 feet, becoming almost impossible to detect against the wave clutter at its speed of 530 miles per hour. The first missile impacted the Iranian frigate's hull at the waterline with a thunderous roar. The 488-pound warhead, designed for maximum damage, detonated inside the ship's magazine, igniting its own stores of ammunition. The resulting explosion ripped the ship in half, its bow and stern sections sinking into the depths in under 3 minutes, a catastrophic end. The second AGM-84 Harpoon, flying with equal precision, hit the port's primary fuel pier, the kinetic impact triggering a chain reaction of secondary explosions that utterly destroyed 3 moored patrol boats and the primary fueling infrastructure for the local Iranian naval base, crippling their ability to resupply. As the USS Gerald R moved to a tighter blockade position under the shifting, obscuring cover of a sandstorm, Iranian civilian-style DAOs, repurposed for war, covertly dropped dozens of EM-52 rocket-rising mines into the deep water channels. These insidious devices, designed to lie dormant, detected targets passing overhead, and then fired a rocket-propelled warhead upward, directly into a ship's hull from below. The USS Boxer's sonar detected the first launch, a high-speed acoustic spike moving vertically from the seabed. The mine detonated 50 feet from the ship's port side, a concussive blast underwater. The shockwave, a tremendous force of displaced water, temporarily knocked out the ship's secondary communications array, a stark reminder of the persistent, cunning threats. The unfolding situation took a chilling turn. Intelligence confirmed that Iran was using Major Rage Reynolds, the captured WSO from the downed F-15E, as a shield, leveraging his capture to disrupt operations. Iranian forces launched a desperate flurry of rockets and mines, not just to inflict damage, but to create a chaotic environment, hoping to deter further U.S. action and buy time. U.S. forces, however, responded with grim determination. Precision strikes, guided by the highest levels of intelligence, continued to clear threats, securing the area around the strategic choke point. A final overwhelming wave of heavy airstrikes, targeting identified key missile and nuclear sites, methodically pulverized Iran's ability to retaliate, collapsing their military infrastructure. With resistance neutralized, their strategic capabilities crippled, U.S. forces maintained absolute control. The mission, however, was not over. The fight for dominance had shifted to a high-stakes rescue mission, a grim race against time to bring one of their own home. As the situation edged closer to a decisive, unyielding turning point, the eyes of the world, though they didn't know it, watched a new chapter of global power unfold, forged in fire and steel in the unforgiving mountains and waters of the Middle East.